Hi, welcome to Mindset, the Global Frame. The topic today is the revised U.S. Ukraine peace plan. In global politics, nothing shifts quietly. When the United States adjusts its foreign policy, the ripple can become a wave. Over the last 48 hours, Washington and Kiev have begun quietly reshaping the proposed peace framework from Russia Ukraine war, a conflict that has redefined European security, global energy markets, and the balance of world power. Some say the revised plan favors Ukraine's survival, others say it quietly concedes ground to Russia. But the deeper story is this: when great powers negotiate peace, who truly benefits and who pays the ultimate price? This is our topic for today with myself, Femi, and my co host, Madam Faye. Madam Faye, come on in.
Absolutely, Femi. Oh, there we go. I said it once, but I'm here. Let's dive in. And this is where we unpack the layers of these global maneuvers. Because, like you said, when the giants of geopolitics shift, everyone feels the aftershocks. Break down what the Revised plan really means on the grind.
So we asked ourselves what exactly changed. Madam Faye, break down the new revision. What did Washington and Kiev actually change?
Absolutely. Well, I caught myself again there, but let's jump right in. So, in this new revision, what Washington and Kiev have really done is tweak terms around territorial security guarantees. They've shifted from a more hardline stance to something a little more flexible, which might open the door to compromises that weren't on the table before. In essence, they've adjusted the roadmap to potentially allow for a phased peace approach rather than an all or nothing deal. So, that's where the big shift lies.
And who does this favor in your um factual opinion? Let's put it like that.
Sure thing. In a purely factual sense, this kind of adjustment likely gives a little breathing room to both sides. For Ukraine, it might offer a more realistic pathway to maintain sovereignty without insisting on every original term. For the US and the broader Western allies, it's a way to push for peace without dragging out a prolonged conflict. And of course, it may also mean that Russia sees a bit of a concession, which could favor them. Really, it's a balancing act for everyone involved.
So you're being very diplomatic. Well, the Biden administration, in is softening certain conditions that Ukraine previously demanded. Key changes included Ukraine no longer insisting Russia completely withdrew, more flexible around Crimea's status, a shift from total victory to sustainable peace. This is Washington signaling the war must end somehow before it drains the West financially. What do you take from that?
Absolutely. Well, and I'll just roll with a nod instead of that word. I think you're spot on. What we're really seeing is a shift from an all or nothing approach to something practical. It's like Washington and Kyiv are acknowledging that a sustainable peace might be better than a never ending quest for total victory. And of course, that does mean they're trying to prevent the West from being drained economically or militarily in the long run. It's a pragmatic step, and it definitely shows a bit of realpolitik at play.
And the question is, why now? This war has been going on since 2022. Why change the tune today? I'll say two reasons: Western fatigue. Europe and the US are struggling to maintain long term military support, as we all know. Global instability, conflicts in the Middle East and Asia demand US attention. Washington cannot fight three geopolitical fires at once. My humble opinion. Analyzing.
Absolutely. You got it. I'll skip that word. And I think you've nailed it right there. It really comes down to timing and those pressures stacking up. With Western fatigue setting in and global hotspots popping up elsewhere, Washington's definitely looking to put at least one of those fires on a lower flame. So it's all about balancing where to focus and how to keep things from spiraling. And that's probably why now.
So, from all the fires burning, what could we say is the most critical to address then, if they are to choose?
Well, if they have to choose, the most critical thing is probably to stabilize the theater that could cause the biggest ripple effect on allies and on global stability. So, if ending the Ukraine conflict more sustainably allows them to free up resources and attention for other crises, then it's probably the top priority. It's really about managing which fire is most urgent to cool down first.
Yeah, the question again, who benefits, who loses? You've been very diplomatic, but really,
All right, let's just lay it out. In a scenario like this, if we talk bluntly, Ukraine might gain a more realistic path to stability, even if it means giving up some initial demands. The US and its allies might get to reduce their military and financial burden. On the side, Russia might feel like it's secured some concessions, so they gain a bit of face saving. And as for who loses, well, those who hoped for a total rollback of Russian advances might feel disappointed. But at the end of the day, if it leads to a more stable peace, that's the trade off on the table.
hmm. From what you're saying, I would say so. This is a win for Russia.
In a sense, you can Russia might see it as a win, at least in terms of getting some concessions. But it's really more of a compromise scenario. Each side gets a little of what they need rather than everything they want. So, sure, from one angle, it might look like a win for Russian, but it's really about finding a middle ground that ends the conflict.
I think it's kind of mixed. Russia gains legitimacy by being treated as an unavoidable negotiating partner. Ukraine gains time, aid, and a path to NATO EU integration. The US gains stability ahead of election circles. The losers are smaller countries will rely on unshakable international order because compromise sets a new precedent.
I think that's a really fair assessment. You've got it in a nutshell. Russia does that just by being part of the negotiation table, and Ukraine does by time and a clearer path forward. The US definitely benefits from a bit of stability, especially when there are political cycles to think about. And yeah, smaller nations that depend on a very firm international order might feel a little uneasy seeing that compromises can happen. But in the end, that's how geopolitics often plays out. There's a new precedent and everyone recalibrates.
Um, just a quick reminder to you guys out there watching, this is a new channel, it's a new concept. Myself, Madam Faye, and we would love for you guys to always join in, talk to me, talk to her, make her more flexible and more natural in our ways. We need our first 100 subscribers, not much. It's free. Click subscribe so we can keep doing this. That being said, hex, which is something we always want to do. It's a global mindset, and it's about the global frame of what happens on a daily basis. So I ask myself, what's the global angle? What's Africa's angle? What does all of this mean for African nations watching from the sidelines? Madam Faye?
Absolutely. And hey, I love that call to get those first 100 subscribers on board. And now, looking at it from the African angle, this is really about understanding that global stability anywhere can have ripple effects everywhere. African nations often navigate a world where big power shifts can influence economic conditions, security dynamics, or even diplomatic alignments. So, for Africa, it's about watching how this new balance of power may open up opportunities for new partnerships or require a bit of strategic adaptation. In other words, the global frame always has a local angle, and for Africa, it's about being ready to navigate whatever comes next.
Hmm, quite interesting. It, from my perspective, it means global security guarantees are actually weakening. When major powers normalize territorial compromise, smaller states lose confidence in the system. For Africa, especially countries with internal conflicts, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Sudan, this signals the world may not come to save you. Diplomacy is no longer moral, it's strategic.
Absolutely. Well, and I know we're keeping it natural, so I'll say you're absolutely spot on. It really does signal that the landscape of global diplomacy is shifting from a kind of moral high ground to a more strategic chessboard. And for regions like Africa, that's definitely a reminder to rely on their own resilience and strategic moves rather than expecting external guarantees to hold everything together. It's a shift from a world where you might hope for a safety net to a world where you have to be your own best strategist. So I think you've summed that up really well.
Madam Faye, thanks for your insight. And as we move on into this podcast YouTube channel, I would like for you to be more neutral, looking, be more diverse, not too analytical in a way. What you gotta say?
Absolutely, I can do that. Keeping it nice and neutral and making sure we bring in lots of diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to keep it balanced and a little less analytical where you want.
Oh,
Thanks for the guidance, and let's keep rolling with that style.
yeah. And one of these days, we're gonna figure out what the deal is with that word. Absolutely.
Yeah, so one day we'll solve the mystery of air and why it's so sneaky. But for now, I'll keep it out of our vocabulary. We'll just keep things diverse, neutral, and fun. And let's keep going.
Given bringing this to a close, like I said, we want you guys here interacting. Your opinion counts, just like in democracy. They say your votes counts. Peace built on exhaustion rather than justice rarely holds. But history shows great powers act according to interest, not sentiments. For Africa, Nigeria, the lesson is clear. Build strength, build stability, build functional systems because the world will not pause for anyone and they're not
Well,
coming to save you. Madam Faye, take it out.
you got it. So, just to wrap it all up, this is exactly why having these conversations matters. The world is always moving, and like you said, no one's going to hit the pause button to come to the rescue. It's all about building your own strength and resilience. And for everyone tuning in, your voice here really does count. So, share your thoughts and let's keep the stuff going. Being with us, and we'll catch you next time.